So, why did it die? Why did Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5 die? Sigourney Weaver has come out and spoken about this directly. Also gives an update on another Alien 5 as well. Kind of all over the place, to be honest. It's an interesting article. These are tidbits of information. It's all quite interesting. You know, Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5 was one of those movies which I think people saw the concept artwork for. And, you know, what we've subsequently learned about it wasn't necessarily as good as what the fans had conjured up in their brains. You know, you see all of this great concept art, and the concept artwork was great. It's very unique. It was very compelling, thought-provoking. It made people's imaginations run wild. And I think that's part of the problem, is that the ideas that people sort of imbued onto it wasn't necessarily as good as what Neill Blomkamp had written. Potentially. So, yeah. Because there's a whole bunch of weird stuff. Allegedly, the xenomorphs made the ship from the spit. Or just loads of weird stuff was going on. Very, very, very peculiar ideas and concepts. Very, very high sci-fi, I guess. You know, great grand departure from what we know, at least, anyway. So let's take a look. Let's see what Sigourney Weaver said, why it died. See whether it's worthwhile. The fact that it's dead, or maybe we could shout and see if we get it. We're not going to get it resurrected, but yeah, see if we can be sad about it, maybe. So on Friday, November 7th, 2025, a screening of 1979's Alien took place at the Cinématique Française, I think that's Francais, in Paris. I'm terrible with French. Paris, France. Following the film, actress Sigourney Weaver gave a 60-minute masterclass titled A Lesson in Cinema, discussing her time in the film. The talk was moderated by Frédéric Bernard, and during the Q&A, what amazing event that must have been. During the Q&A, a member of the audience asked her about Neill Blomkamp's cancelled Alien 5 project that would have retconned Alien 3 and brought back Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, Michael Biehn as Corporal Hicks, and Carrie Henn as Newt. So, on Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5, Weaver confirmed her admiration for the director and the quality of the unproduced sequel, stating she loved working with Neill, and he had this idea of bringing Ripley and Newt back. It was a wonderful script. However, she obviously explained why it died, citing Ridley Scott again. Bloody Ridley Scott. So, again, whether that's good or bad, who knows, based on what we know about the film. So she said this. Yes, well, I think like many of us, I was a big admirer of Neill. His movie was so striking, and I worked with him on a movie called Chappie. And I loved working with Neill, and he had this idea of bringing Ripley and Newt back. It was a wonderful script, and unfortunately, it was at that point, I think, that Ridley Scott decided to be very possessive about the series and really drilled down on his prequels. And so I think it was a disaster for that project. We were never able to... I think Neill, in fact, just gave up. And he's so talented. I wish him all the best. That is amazing. Like, Sigourney Weaver, no fucks given. Yeah, Ridley Scott became very possessive. Man. Also, in fairness, you know, 20th Century Fox at the time gave him too much possession of the franchise. You know, they gave him far too much possession of the franchise and probably inflated his own sense of ownership behind it. Because he's not like, he's executive producer now, but I mean, you just do some research and see how much he contributed to the movie, you know. When they say he created it, he really didn't. It's just a fact. He did some great stuff, though. Don't get me wrong. He did brilliant things for the film. And it definitely wouldn't have been the same film without him. But it was a collaborative effort. So for reference, Blomkamp revealed his Alien 5 project when he posted some concept art in early 2015, and Fox did greenlight the film. But by the end of the year, it was put on hold due to Ridley Scott wanting to make Alien Covenant. There have been conflicting reports about whether or not there was a script in place. Sigourney Weaver and James Cameron said that they had read Blomkamp's script and called it amazing, whilst Ridley Scott said there was never a script. Only an idea and a treatment. And there is an article here, a little bit about it. You know, it's just, like, this whole thing is just complete shit show, basically. It's just an absolute joke. I mean, mental. But the artwork still stands true as just incredible stuff. Beautiful stuff. Really, really, really beautiful stuff. But yeah. Cheers, Rid, mate. Cheers, Ridders. Cheers, Ridders. Anyway, is she going to come back for another one? Whoa! She shifted focus to a separate project. A 50-page treatment titled Alien 5, written by Walter Hill, who is indeed the producer of the original film. Weaver, who initially revealed this treatment in 2020, called it quite extraordinary last month, provided new details on the story's unique direction, while she reiterated that she has never particularly wanted to go back to the series. She does find Hill's approach intriguing. So she said this: actually, Walter Hill has written about 50 pages, maybe by now. He's written more about where Ripley might be now. And although I've never particularly wanted to go back to the series, there's something about her experience being sidelined now, probably by this society, by this company, by this world, and being probably around 200 years old. But still Ripley, and, you know, presumably these problems still out there. So I'm going to see what happens with Walter's script. It would not be like what we've seen tonight. It would not be running around through air shafts. It would be a very different kind of story. Interesting. There was a bit of a weird sort of misspeak, I think, when they initially revealed Walter Hill's script, like last month or whenever it was, saying it was like after Alien 3. Is that, well, what? Be after Alien Resurrection, surely. So she spoke about Alien Earth. She says, on the other hand, I loved Alien Earth. I thought it was remarkable. So interesting, terrifying about our world, and yet you can understand. You can imagine a world where each bro owns a planet. Tech bro owns a planet, sorry. You know, it's not that far from where America is now. So I'm glad to see that Alien has legs, as they say in the business. And I think it's a very interesting time for the series. I mean, it is. Whether you love or hate it, definitely is an interesting time for the series. So there you go. It died because Ridders. Good old Ridders. But again, whether you think that's a good thing or not, that depends on you. That does depend on you. Certainly don't think his possessiveness over the franchise has resulted in an influx of fantastic products of late. Let's put it that way. So maybe this would have been good. Maybe it wouldn't have been. Who knows? Leave your thoughts down below. Bye-bye now.